Breaking news!
Hi everybody, we're living our best YouTube life right now, and we have a demonstration video for you about coil pots with your clay. Most of you who were here on Friday got some clay from us in a handy dandy Ziploc bag. Those of you who are not here on Friday, we're gonna have to work through this a little bit. You're gonna have to be a little bit flexible. But hopefully you can go out and get some clay. You can get it at the dollar store, Daiso. It's not $1 here, it's a 100 yen store.
Hyakuen store.
The Hyakuen store. You can get it at most stationery stores. They'll have some clay. Tokyu hands. If you are super unable to get it, please email us and we can maybe do a handoff with you at school this week.
Okay.
What we need for this is your Ziploc bag that we gave you, your clay in that Ziploc bag, a cup of water, okay, some tools to use with the clay. And this can be anything you find around your house that's pointy. Just make sure you ask your parents or your guardians whether you can use these things or not. You don't want to get in trouble by using the wrong thing. I do have a paintbrush here. The back of the paintbrush is a nice pointy surface for something like that.
All right, guys, let's get to it.
So we're gonna start with our clay right now to begin. Make sure when you store this at the end and at the beginning you have it sealed really tightly, but we're gonna start with a fair amount of clay. You wanna get all the bubbles out by giving it a good smush. And we're gonna start rolling this out. I like to use this section of my hands, the pads of my fingers. You don't wanna roll it between two hands because then you get kind of a lumpy look to it. I'm gonna take the pads of my fingers and I'm going to try to roll out a nice, consistent snake.
You can have some music over the top.
Oh yeah, we'll have music over the top at this time.
I also
Sarah, what's your alternate technique?
The other way is that you can twist it slightly and it'll keep round like this. If you're finding that it's getting too flat, pressing too hard, if you go like this, it goes back into a cylinder.
That's a good one. So here we go. We're trying to get it, and you can see that in this middle part right here, I've actually gone too thin. That's not gonna work for what we're doing, so I might actually cut it and just start with this. We can connect pieces to each other to make this coil pot. I'm gonna start coiling now. You can see I've just kind of pinched my edge a little bit to have a nice consistent shape to this. And now I'm going to start coiling. This is why it's called a coil pot. I'm going to pinch it in on itself. Okay, I need to probably put some water in there to make sure it stays together. So I'm just gonna dip my fingers in the water. You don't wanna dip your clay in the water. If I dip my clay in the water, I end up with mud, okay? So I'm going to add some water on this. I'm going to coil it around. Is that fizzle?
It is the other.
Like what? Do you want that? Okay, I can rewind it back. So at this point, I can take my clay and I can begin coiling. I like to dip my hands in the water to get water on my fingers and not dip my clay in the water because you will get mud. Rub some water on the inside that's going to connect together, and then I'm going to very carefully start coiling together. You can see I've got a nice coil right here going. Now, I've already rolled this other piece of snake material. I'll do the same thing. I'll get some water on there. I can connect and kind of press these two pieces together. Don't add too much water because you'll get mud. We don't want This also might stick to whatever surface you're using, which is why we like to use a nice surface that's not going to get destroyed. Did you have thoughts?
No, you're doing fine. I'm just.
I should have used the clay. Okay. Alright, I've got my next snakes already lined up here. I'm going to dip my hands in some more water. I'm going to begin connecting this. Oh, this one's a little bit bigger. It's okay. Once I get to about the size of the base that I like, I'm going to start going up. So you can see, and I'll show you on this side. I'm going to wrap it around and I'm going to step up onto here. This is where I need to get water on the top. Make sure they stand on top of each other. You gotta kind of get them.
This might have been better on the table.
It's okay. Do you want to re-angle it? I have to tilt on this show. You can see how I have this on top of each other. It's going vertically. If I, at this point, have it go out, I'll have kind of a wide pot. If I go in, I'll have a narrow pot. This is really up to you, and it's something you should experiment with and document in your process journal. Completely up to you, that though. All right, I'll keep adding my coil. Adding water as I go. This is not. This demonstration, because that's probably about as much clay as you have. Now there are some problems with this one. This is not perfect, and that's okay. It's just about experimenting. We should be documenting what goes well and what doesn't go well with this process, because that's part of learning, is that you need to document your process. We will help you reflect on that later, but we would like you to fill out that sheet that's on PowerSchool. It's a handout that is your digital process journal, which we have explained in the slideshow on PowerSchool. And there's my coil pot. There. Oh, you did. It's automatic focus. So you press slightly to press this again. Oh, almost tried. And I'll do something. Yeah. Okay. The next step is that I would smooth this surface out. That's where one of these tools might come into play. I can wet the outside of this, and I can begin lightly scratching. Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can smooth the side of it like that. You could do it a couple different ways. If I press too hard, I'll smash my pot, which is okay because it's clay. You can make a new one. But you can see how I've smoothed that side out. Sometimes you got to do it a couple times. Sometimes you got to dig a little bit deeper if you have kind of a gap in between and smooth it out. You can actually get a really smooth coil pot if you spend enough time on this.
That's the middle.
That's the middle? Oh, weird. Okay. But maybe down on the table, that's middle, but up here.
Actually, maybe a little bit.
Taking my finger with some water. Smoothing it out. I'm now documented my process journal, what went well, what happened, what didn't go well, and that's that.
Yes, is there anything else you want to tell me?
No. Oh yeah.
You're gonna have problems with that.
Do that one.
Well, no, because it'll just cut to me.
Okay. Also, you want to take care of the inside. I've got water on my finger. There. Yeah. It's hard to see. We have finished our coil pot. We are now going to destroy the coil pot because we don't need to keep this. Okay? We can reuse this clay for other techniques throughout the next 2 to 3 weeks. So take this clay and
Smash!
get some water on it too, on your hands, not on the clay itself, just to rehydrate the clay. Make sure you put it back into your bag. Make sure you try to push all the air out of your bag too. Seal it up tight. And we'll see you in the next demo. And we'll see you on the next demo. Break.
Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
I think they actually can like it.